Trump slapped reciprocal tariffs on nearly every country in the world except for Russia. And that included uninhabited islands where only penguins and like seagulls live. It was likely determined by an AI algorithm, and it just calculated goods but not services. And it goes off the premise that like any trade deficit, so us buying more than we are selling to different countries, is bad, even though like we buy coffee and bananas from Costa Rica for a fucking reason, because we cannot grow those things here. The markets are nosediving. And the head of BlackRock Investment has said that from every other CEO he's spoken to, we're in a recession. We're already in a recession. And the inflation just alone is going to be insane. Now, Trump, it's sort of like, I've been around this story from every which way, and it's like, there's no reason. Trump is doing this because he's obsessed with tariffs the way that he's obsessed with any woman who's not his wife. Like that is, he just wants to do it, and nothing's going to throw him off of it. He's using emergency powers. The International Emergency Economic Powers Act, a 1977 law that allows the president to declare an emergency under the National Emergency Act and then regulate imports based on it, which is, it's never been used for this. It's stupid. Even Rand Paul is like, what are we doing? We talked about this a little bit on Friday with Doug Henwood, for those who haven't watched it. But like, there is a role for Congress to play. They could try, the Senate could try to like regain control of these tariffs, to slow them, to stop them. We'll see. But there's a lot of people laundering the bullshit. And one of them is Larry Kudlow on Fox. Even this guy, who's a like total, you know, pro-business, low tax rates, super on board with the Trump tax cuts that are basically, you know, a tax cut for the wealthy. And here he is speaking to Scott Bessent, not Commerce Secretary. What's Scott Bessent? I forgot it. What he is, some whatever economic advisor. Here he is explaining his Treasury Secretary. Sorry, Scott Bessent. Like, what are we doing?
You get your deregulation. These are all huge pro-growth items. Okay. We will grow. We, the United States, will grow faster than Japan. We will grow faster than almost anybody. Therefore, almost by definition, by growing faster than the rest of the world, we're always going to have a trade deficit. So I don't know why you'd want to use the trade deficit in a calculation for a reciprocal charge. I understand your point about non-tariff barriers. I get that. That's why I would have chosen a handful of countries, I don't know, maybe 10 or a dozen countries, and really carefully pinpointed it. But to apply this to the whole world on the basis of trade deficits, is that really the best in your judgment? You've been around a long time. You've looked at these. You've done analysis. Is that really where we should be at?
Well, look, Larry, the trade deficit, as you and Art know, is a result of three things. It's a result of the terms of trade, it's a result of our budget deficit, and it's the result of the level of the dollar.
Okay, let's leave aside his crazy excuses there at the end, but like, this is Kudlow being like, what are you doing? Like, this makes no sense. Why are you just slapping the entire world with these tariffs? I would have done it targeted. And you know who did it targeted was Joe Biden. Joe Biden did targeted tariffs under the Inflation Reduction Act. And the reaction is like, well, you know, it's the way the regulations and the dollar and all this. And Andy, what I've been sort of like freaking out about and so angry about is that, like, as someone who came from like the global justice movement, who was like protesting against all of these free trade or so-called free trade deals that were giving, you know, going to gut American workers and all this back in like the early 2000s, it's like now, and the corporations benefited. American corporations were the ones who set these laws to do exactly what they did. And so we could be top of the heap. That the dollar would always be strong, that we would buy a bunch of stuff from other countries for cheap. And, you know, and that was it. We export our manufacturing. That was the deal. And now Trump wants to put the entire cat back in the bag in the most dumbass, ham-fisted way possible.
I think that I don't think that they actually know what they're doing. And I don't think that, like, I think it's junk science that's probably going to, you know, prove false, and we're going to be in a recession and we're going to go back to, you know, the Middle Ages. where like mining is a good job.
Right.
But I think his, you know, like his pitch to the Trump base is that, you know, we're going to bring back manufacturing. But even the people who are in his own camp are like, if we bring back manufacturing, it's going to be robots. Like, it's not going to be like the guys in Dayton, Ohio, or whatever. Like that, we don't want like, it's just so weird to me that they think, and also that they think that that can happen that quickly. Like the thing with the IRA, and I think the Democrats, probably their biggest mistake was not running the entire campaign on the IRA.
Agreed. Dude, agreed.
It was the biggest, there was so many job creation, infrastructure, environment. It like brought together so many camps. It also called for temporary worker visas for you know, like migrant laborers and things like that. So it like, not that I think that's the best setup, but just like it was such a big camp or big tent, you know, like unifier policy, the biggest in American history. Almost, I can't remember what was FDR's big thing called. Do you know what
his
I'm talking
New
about?
Deal?
Yeah, the New Deal, but there was like another term for it, like where he created the workers,
the Works program, the Works Project Association.
Yeah, exactly. Like we, you know,
WPA.
I know it's like scary socialism, and like, you know, all of a sudden we'd all be pledging allegiance to the, you know, Communist Manifesto if we celebrated it at all. But yeah, I don't get it. Like, why is everybody such a rube? This is like the same thing that I was bitching about earlier. It's like just the dummies are winning. There's no, like, nothing is real anymore. Like they are going to act, you know, that there's going to be, the base is going to come back and say this is a good thing, even though middle class people are going to lose their entire 401k.
Yeah, everyone who's like looking to retire right now is like, what the hell? And it's like, you know, you've heard Scott Bessent's also out here going, first of all, number one, Scott Bessent has definitely said tariffs are a tax, and he's said that before, but now he's in the administration, he's got to launder it for them. But you know, he's also said like, well, you know, it's okay if you've like, you know, so you've lost 5 or 6%, but 5 or 6% for, you know, an average person is a lot of money.
And it's not 5 or 6%. My wife checked her portfolio yesterday, and it's not nothing because she's been successful. She lost, I think, like 11% yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
And some people lost more if you were in different brackets. Yeah. The fucked up thing about it is it's not even, you know, it's not the richest people that are going to lose the most money, even though they're going to lose a ton of money. It's going to be these kind of unprotected, unschematic, kind of regular funds like 401ks and retirement pension funds and things like that.
Yes.
And they're all going to, you know, just lap it up, which is the worst of it. We're going to have to argue with them as to why it's horrible that they now have to go to, like, you know, the Amazon clinic at Target to get their
overpriced meds that are like, have so many tariffs on them from Canada, a country that we're currently at war with. And we're like, but here is Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who I referenced earlier, speaking specifically about this idea that it's going to be, you know, American workers, but it's going to be automated. But you know, they're going to be engineers, but they're going to be high schoolers. Makes sense. This is
great American workers. You know, we are going to replace on other networks, armies of millions of people. Well, remember, the army of millions and millions of human beings screwing in little screws to make iPhones. That kind of thing is going to come to America. It's going to be automated, and great Americans, the trade craft of America, is going to fix them, is going to work on them. They're going to be mechanics. There's going to be HVAC specialists. There's going to be electricians. The trade craft of America, our high school educated Americans, the core to our workforce is going to have the greatest resurgence of jobs in the history of America to work on these high-tech factories, which are all coming to America. That's what's going to build our next generation of America.
Are you? So,
not a single, no infrastructure. The bridges are going to be collapsing. The roads are going to be cracking. The seawalls are going to be breaking. But Americans are going to be just the craftsmen America are going to be just carving iPhone cases. Just, just with our lathes.
The Amish are really they're coming into it right now. I mean, I love this idea. It's very like, what are you saying? Okay, so we get to fix the robots that break down when they build this thing, which by the way, like, there's an amazing documentary called like American Factory or something like this. It came out of like, I don't know.
I think Obama produced it.
No. It's a different one. It was,
I'm thinking of the work one. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It's like, it's something more ominous than that. I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically
I think it is
like,
called American Factory. I think you're right.
No. It's called Manufactured Landscapes. It just came into my mind. But
okay, that's a way different one.
No, you're right about the American Factory was the one about, I think, like a Korean owned or a Chinese owned plant. And it was really interesting. But Manufactured Landscapes came out in 2006. And I know it's like kind of a throwback, but you just like watch someone assemble like an electric fan, like a little fan, like over and over and over and over and over again. And you're just like, bro, like, no, it's fucking wild. Like, that's what they want. Number one, we don't have the robots to do this. This is all like as if 20 years in the future and Elon's singularity is happening. Their robots can barely pick up a fucking Amazon box, right? We've seen that. Oh, they can pose with Kim Kardashian as, you know, the Tesla robots are doing, but they cannot do the fine motor skills that are actually needed. So which is it? So is it going to be us with our little carpal tunnel? And are you going to be paying us a livable wage? No. And if you are, then iPhones are going to be like $5,000 a pop, which I don't know. My moral part of me is like, maybe they should be that much money and we shouldn't have to fucking replace them every 2 years. But like, it's just so nonsensical what they are trying to do, because there's literally, it's like, oh, we're trying to get over there and there's literally no bridge. We're just going to jump.
The thing about it with it really seems like Trump can't get away, no matter, you know, like he's always got this kind of thing where he touts the like smartest guys, like where he puts together this like Avengers of like American ingenuity and economy, and all of them are like 14-time bankruptcied MLM CEOs, like the My Pillow guy to like a guy that like invented a supplement that, you know, makes you like, you know, it's like knockoff Chinese Wegovy. Like, it's just everything. He can't stay away from them. He's too much of a rube. And I mean, that's so obvious with him that he has no idea what he's talking about, Lutnick, and that there isn't a solution to this. The fact of the matter is that our economy can't sustain a manufacturing base. And by the way, I think NAFTA ruined the American worker.
Yeah.
But with, you know, kind of the, you know, like, let's say utopian, and obviously I'm not like a capital D Dem, but you know, like the Democratic plan where it's like, if the IRA and, you know, earlier ideas about what we were going to do for American workers actually came to fruition, it's like those skilled workers, those manufacturing jobs go into computers, they go into infrastructure, they go into conservation, they go into whatever it is.
Alternative energy, right?
Or also like transitioning people into more like, not, you know, because it's like, I get it. I'm a dumb guy. I want to chop wood, and I get that, like, so many, like, I really do think this is like one of the biggest reasons why men have like gone back into you know, whatever it is, caveman brain. But it's like we took away their manufacturing jobs and we said they couldn't say gay anymore, and they just have no identity. They're just like, what do I do? And so they, you know, they want to go back into the mines, and they, you know, they want sister wives and things like that.
Well, but this like, just to your point, like, this is, I think, you know, this is an article that I sent you by Rotimi Adeyemi, I believe his last name is. But basically, he has this article, this opinion piece in Adeoye, thank you, Francesca, for reading, for the Washington Post. Is basically like, he's calling it MAGA Maoism, which is precisely this idea that like, we need a cultural revolution in the other direction. We need to put people back into these like, you know, hard blue collar, you know, physical manual labor jobs. That was great, and that women obviously should be at home. That's what it should be. That's true liberation, is obviously, you know, depending on a man for everything and not being able to work yourself. And also, it's kind of like a fuck you to immigrants of like, oh, you're trying to get ahead, you want to get a degree. There's a massive attack, obviously, on the, higher learning right now. But it's like, no. You need to be assembling shoes in some sort of factory, and you should be thankful for that. This whole idea that you're going to be, of some sort of intellectual service, whether you're going to be a doctor, an engineer, a teacher, all of that. No. Get rid of that idea. And so it's like that. And Doug Henwood was saying this to me on Friday, and I was like, it wasn't clicking for me yet, but it is totally about a culture war. It is exactly what you're saying. It is about like the Christian nationalist fantasy and this nostalgia that I think, this is my last thing on this, it's not even like the nostalgia for like the 50s and 60s, right? Which had its problems and were pre-feminist movement and, no civil rights, etc. But like it's before. It's like during the 20s. It's like before the labor movement actually rose up against the robber barons. It's like on some top hat shit. Like that's what they want. They want to really have people go back into the mines again, as if there's anything left to mine.
Yeah, I mean, I think the nostalgia, which they don't even realize, because so many of these people are like former deadheads and ex-hippies and people that spent the 70s and 80s smoking weed or whatever.
Yeah.
People that like fancied themselves as counterculture before their 50s or whatever, or probably still to this day. I mean, Ann Coulter thinks she's a fucking deadhead. Like,
oh my God,
like any of the Grateful Dead would ever even pose for a picture with her. I don't think that they're tall enough or have cameras that can get that
really
lady,
that
whatever. No, but I just want to insult her, and physical appearance seems like maybe her voice is what we should go after, or her ideas. But it's just like it's like they are so willing to like own themselves that they're like literally like advocating for like a corporate ethno state. And it's like, it's so sad. I just I came from like the season 4-7 premiere. I don't know what it was for Handmaid's Tale. And there's so many scary overlaps with it. Just this, like, what people are kind of signing themselves up for. And they don't even, it's like the same thing with like where we saw like 1,000,001 pictures of Latinos for Trump watching their neighbors or family members or themselves being deported,
Can I ask you where you stand on the sort of FAFO sort of ethos of like, haha, Trumpers, you're all gonna kind of eat now. I mean, because really, we're about to talk about things that are far worse, people being disappeared. I think that is much worse than tanking the economy, to be honest with you. But tanking the economy is a very unifying anger and gripe that does have the power to turn a lot of the people who voted for Trump against him.
I don't care if the economy tanks, really, mainly because I don't have a lot of capital to lose, but also because I think we need there has to be some kind of drastic, like just like COVID, I feel like radicalized a lot of people, not necessarily in the right direction. I do think that, I do enjoy somewhat of that, but I also want to say that I think like as a Democrat or somebody that was like identified as a Democrat for a very long time, I think that urban, like, haha, look at these rubes, look how stupid they are, is like how we got here. So I try not to indulge in that very much.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
then you realize it's all been fake. It's all been like the New York Times sort of whitewashing the hillbilly elegy, the J.D. Vance bullshit. Like when Hillbilly Elegy was just like a class trader's novel about like why people are on welfare and like, need to pull up by their bootstraps.
If you watch like Harlan County, USA, I mean, that was like 1970 something. And those were people that organized on their own in the Appalachians. Like they're not idiots, people know what they're doing. And, I do enjoy watching. I think I enjoy the most part. I watch it like the gaffes, like I loved seeing whatever island that was, like the Smith and Marshall Islands or whatever, where they're tariffing the penguins and sea lions. Those are my favorites.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, it's apparently also we're tariffing places because they have like ports, and so that's where the imports are coming through. Yeah. But that's only because they're like seaside. It's not because they are the ones that are producing these goods. It's just so stupid. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/bitchuationroom. Do it.